The Cold War was a really interesting, it was a civilized war, not like today, where politically we were at war with Russia, capitalism versus communism. Scientifically, there was a lot of cooperation that was going on. We built the space station with Russia.
Right.
We did that together. I mean, what a beautiful thing that we accomplished together. Russia and America at that time were the only two superpowers. Number one, the only powers that had the money and the technology and the capabilities of going to the moon or anywhere else. And they agreed not to talk about what they found on the moon. Now both countries are broke.
Why do you think that is?
Because of what's on the moon.
What do you think's on the moon?
Well, I just want to say now both countries are broke, but there are other countries that are not. India is sending Shiva 1 to the moon, and China, and neither one of those countries agreed to non-disclosure. And China has actually said, and this is, I mean, you can't make this up. I keep saying this. China has said when they land their craft on the lunar surface, they will broadcast to the world what they see. So here's the thing. We sent craft looking for microbes and bacterial forms of life when those craft landed next to archaeological remnants that are over 50,000 years old.
On the moon.
On the moon, on the lunar surface. And when China sends those images back, my sense, and I don't have an inside track any longer, my sense is that we're going to see structures that are there. And I've seen the photographs of the structures. They all the way back to the Clementine missions that were, through Freedom of Information, had to be released in I think it was 1990. They had to be released. And they did, and they pixelated out all of the archaeological structures. And some of them are towers, some of them are long, elongated archaeological structures.
This footage is a little bit older, and it was originally captured by a man named Alan Roswell. And as you can see once again, we have this large black square object sticking out like a sore thumb, casting a large shadow behind it on the moon. I mean, what more else is there to say? It's an amazing piece of footage, a massive pyramid. So here's the zoomed out image. This is the entire image here. Once again, it's an LRO, Lunar Orbiter image, and if you will point your attention to this area right here, you will see what the viewer saw in the form of a massive object towering above the moon's surface, casting a very, very large shadow. That object which is just now coming into view and you are looking at now. So we have this large pyramid-shaped structure here. And once again, we will outline this object, which you're seeing here with the white lines. And even without the lines, you can see that it has a definite pyramid-like shape. And this thing would have to be massively tall. I mean, in length and width, this thing is huge. And you can see the giant shadow being cast down behind the object. And I gotta say, this is a damn good find. Because of the size of this thing, it sticks out like a sore thumb even when the image is zoomed all the way out.
Look at the irony. Here we are looking for microbes landing next to temples on the lunar surface.
Yeah.
Now think about what this means. Here we are, we're on a planet on the verge of global war because we believe our differences are so great that we must hurt one another to solve those differences. What would it mean for a space probe from Earth to land on the lunar surface and find these archaeological remnants and find that they're not from aliens from another world, but they're from us from another time? And I think when they send those images and you see the glyphs on those temple walls, we'll know exactly what they say because they will be in our root languages. Cuneiform, Hebrew, Sanskrit, and Arabic are the four root languages that I think you'll see when those come back. Would that be enough for us to look at one another as nations and say, my God, look at the great and beautiful things that we did when we worked together a long time ago in the past? What could we achieve if we came together right now? what could we give to our children? And what could we give to our future if we work together instead of destroying ourselves? Something like that could be the catalyst.
You see, there was something that came out in NASA a couple weeks ago. I think it was maybe even a month ago, where they discovered caves, like deep caverns.
Oh yeah, I
on
saw
the
that.
moon.
Yeah, they've already found it. It's already. I mean, this stuff, we've had the images, and I think it's one of the reasons commercially we didn't go back, because it causes a lot of problems.
Pointy, towering structures, the image of which you're seeing here, which is basically just another part of this large scan. So this is all in the same image that you'll be able to download. And as you can see, we have what look like hundreds of these large, black, pointy spires coming up out of the moon's surface, just completely littering the surface. And once again, there's some other very odd-looking objects in this image. There's some objects that look like bridges. So once again, very mysterious and anomalous. I'll leave it up to you guys as to what these large pointy objects are.
About the dark side, like there was also something that came out where they were interviewing I think it was in front of Congress maybe, but they were interviewing the head of NASA, and they were asking him about why China is sending rovers out to the dark side of the moon, and he was like, let them do it. We don't care what's back there.
Well,
That's what he said.
the moon itself is an enigma. Shouldn't be.
Right, of course.
Shouldn't
Right.
be where it is. The
Right.
orbit of the moon is unlike any other orbit of any moon around any planet in our solar system. The multiples, the dimensions, the geometry of the moon, the number of moons between Earth and the sun, the number of moons between Earth and the moon, these are very precise. They're integer multiples. This doesn't happen in nature. All
Right.
the other planets in our solar system, moons typically orbit around the equator. Ours is offset just enough to give us the gravity to stabilize our ocean tides. And
Right.
there is geologic evidence to suggest there was a time where we had oceans and no moon, and the tides were huge. I mean, we're talking like 400-foot waves that were coming in and just decimating land. And there are stories, and there are indigenous traditions and biblical passages that talk about when there was no moon and how things changed when the moon occurred. Now, that's not science. They're stories.
Right.
But the geology does suggest they found evidence of these massive tides at a time when it's believed the moon didn't exist. The question is the moon a natural moon? Is it artificial, or is it a natural moon that was captured in our orbit from a catastrophic event in our solar system? And all big questions, you know, to be answered.
Yeah.
So I think as we go through the congressional hearings and we find out more, we've been in contact. I mean, they're telling us we've got the craft. I don't think anybody cares about that anymore. Nobody's surprised. We have the beings. I don't think anybody's surprised about that. But we have the technology, and that's the problem. Because if we've had technology for 70 years that could have ended wars and eased human suffering, and because of greed, we chose not to reveal that technology, that's the problem. And the moment that technology is revealed, our entire infrastructure of the planet changes.
This image here in particular contains an array of anomalous structures and objects, and contains the most mysterious and amazing of which is a structure that has come to be known as the Tower or the Spire. Now, all of these images, including this one, and this is according to Arizona State University, The lunar orbiter images were all digitally scanned at 400 dpi at the Lunar and Planetary Institute in Houston. Whole images were too large to be scanned at once and were broken up into 4 sections. So you will see dividing lines in this image where the entire image was pasted together. So now we'll get to these anomalies. And as we zoom in here, you'll start to see this towering structure come to life on the screen. And here we have a close-up view of the tower itself. And there are many interesting structures in this image, and these aren't just blurry rocks. I mean, these are straight edge, multiple straight edges, objects, mechanical looking shapes and structures that just simply do not belong. So firstly, we have this large tower, which we will outline for you, and we will also outline some of the other more prolific objects in this image. So let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit so we can see a little bit more of the surface area of this image and the objects within. So what you're seeing now is the zoomed out image. You can still see the tower, and we will go ahead and highlight a few of these main structures that really stick out to us and have stuck out to many others over the years and have become the core of the mystery surrounding this image and the structures within. So here in white lining, we have highlighted the tower and the structures at the base of it, which you're seeing here. We have also highlighted another structure that is to the lower left, down a ways from the tower, which almost looks like a capital letter H, and that's this structure you're seeing here. And then if we move back up to the tower, just below the tower, we have another amazing structure that's shaped almost like a fork, like the end of a fork or a letter E, a capital letter E, which we have highlighted here for you to see in white lining. And you can see it's perfectly straight edges. It has basically 3 prongs on it, like you would see on a fork. They have complete straight edges, and this structure, besides the tower, is, in my opinion, one of the second most amazing parts of this image.
Yeah.